Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Lorenzo Bettoni. Today I will focus on transfers and specifically on 5 release clauses to keep an eye on in Serie A. It's the international break. It's going to finish pretty soon, but during the international breaks, especially in March, there are always transfer speculations about players who may leave, who may stay. There's a lot going on in terms of transfer rumors because a new transfer window is just around the corner. And today I focus on 5 players who have a release clause, which doesn't mean they're going to leave, but it's something that we need to take into account because, of course, having a release clause means that a club can come to another one and say, okay, I'm going to pay this fee for this player, and there's no need to negotiate. They just pay the fee of the release clause, they get an agreement with the player, and the deal is done. Again, this doesn't mean the players that are mentioned will surely leave, but there's a release clause which on paper can make it easier for interested clubs to sign them over the summer. I want to start with Rafael Leao, Milan star. You know how important he was in Milan, winning the Serie A title in 2022. But he's never been up to that standards again, at least not consistently. But despite that, he has a pretty big release clause, 175 million, to leave Milan. His contract expires in 2028, and he's already been linked with a number of big clubs, including Chelsea and Barcelona. I would say especially Chelsea and Barcelona. But given the performances of Leao across the last couple of campaigns, it's very hard to imagine these two clubs paying his full release clause. It's easier probably if they're really interested to see them sit down with Milan and try to negotiate a transfer fee which will make Milan happy. The sum for Milan, I think it can be around 100 million. There's an article on calciomercato.com today explaining that Milan will be looking to a 3-figure, let's say, transfer fee for Leao. But for sure, he's one of those players, despite being one of the best players in the team, arguably one of the best players in Serie A as well. There's a feeling that Milan would listen to offers for Leao because inconsistent performances have pushed them to consider his future elsewhere. He still have very good stats, Leao. Of course, as I said, he's probably the best Milan player for sure. One of the best in the team, even if this season Christian Pulisic and Tijani Reinders have had probably better performances overall than Leao, but his goal involvements are always really, really substantial. And the feeling with Leao is that he should just he has the strength and the potential to have 1 goal contribution per game even, and is not too close to that, but working hard on the pitch, he can get to that level. Milan are unsure probably that he will get to that level, so he has 175 million clause. Probably nobody will go and pay it straight away unless something huge happens, but there is a clause in place which is valid until July 15. It's the same date for Moise Kean's release clause from Fiorentina, 52 million. This kid has had an incredible season at Fiorentina. Last year at Juventus, he didn't even score 1 goal, like 0 goals for Kean, on and off the pitch with injuries. And this season at Fiorentina has been absolutely amazing. The way he defends the ball, the amounts of goals that he scores, physically he's a beast. He is really a strong player, and even with the national team during the last break with Germany, he scored 2 goals against Germany away, and he really is one of the rising talents in Italy. One of those players who is consistently scoring goals and helping the team. And he joined Fiorentina for 18 million. Many even argued that Fiorentina paid too much last summer for Ken because he had a year left in his contract with Juventus, but just 6 months later, it turns out that it was a huge deal, a great deal from Fiorentina, and the bargain, I would say, because he's been scoring so many goals for the Tuscans. But yet again, he has this release clause. It's 52 million, and Newcastle have been recently linked with Ken. There were reports on calciomercato.com that the Premier League club had already spoken to the player's agent. It's still pretty early, but of course, if Kean continues like this, it's hard not to see his name mentioned in the summer transfer rumors. He has 15 goals in 26 Serie A games this season. Only Retegui of Atalanta has more. Palladino also spoke about Kean today during a press conference, as he said that he's happy at the club, that players generally consider not the money, but they mostly consider the club's project and the love of the fans for them. And this is something that Kean really feels at Fiorentina. He still kept the door open for Kean's exit, saying if there's a club who pays the release clause, then maybe it's going to be his final say. But at the moment, he's very happy at Fiorentina. So Palladino didn't suggest that maybe Kean would leave Fiorentina over the summer. The third release clause I want to mention is for another striker, and is Victor Osimhen, who's currently not in Serie A. He's on loan at Galatasaray, but when he returns to Napoli at the end of the season, he will have a 75 million clause, which on paper will really be a bargain for any club buying him. He was the Serie A leading scorer in 2023 when Napoli won the Scudetto, and then there were issues at the club in the following campaign, on and off the field. He pushed to leave. He didn't find an agreement with Chelsea, PSG, and other clubs who were interested in signing him, and so at the end of the summer transfer window in 2024, he had to leave on loan for Galatasaray because he knew he would not get any playing time at Napoli because he was not part of Conte's project and the club's project, not for his strength, because he's of course one of the best strikers in Europe, but because there was a situation where he could no longer continue with Napoli. His previous release clause was 130 million. When he signed his agreement with Galatasaray until the end of the season, the Napoli clause decreased to 75 million. So this is the fee for which Victor Osimhen will be available in the summer. And apparently the clause is not valid for Serie A clubs. So, for example, clubs like Juventus, who have been linked with Osimhen, would need to go to Napoli and sit down probably a higher fee. As I said, Osimhen expected to return to Napoli at the end of the season because probably Galatasaray won't trigger that release clause for him. Contract expires in 2026, but Napoli can extend for a further campaign until 2027, just in case he doesn't find any other agreement to join another club, and so they won't lose him on a free transfer in 2026. There is this option, but the feeling is that Osimhen will actually leave Napoli at the end of the season, and probably the release clause will be met by a top club. There's PSG in the frame, but there are many other Premier League clubs who can be in contention for what has been one of the best strikers in Serie A over the last few years. A fourth release clause that I'll mention here is for Marcus Thuram, Inter striker, yet again, one of the best strikers in Serie A this season. He had an incredible start. 2025 has been a little less in terms of scoring for Thuram, but he has had an incredible impact overall at Inter, won the Serie A title in his first season. He's one of the best scorers in Serie A this term, and he has an 85 million clause to leave Inter. Now, the Nerazzurri are already discussing one way to extend his contract and cancel this release clause, but at the moment there are still no agreements in place. Of course, Inter are the most established team in Serie A. For sure, they're the most. They are well balanced. They know every player know exactly their skill sets. They know exactly what they have to do on the pitch. And Thuram is surely one of the key players under Simone Inzaghi. They're not doing very well in Serie A Inter. They're also doing great things in Europe and in the Champions League. And it's not easy to find such a structured project around Europe. So Thuram said a few months ago that he would never leave Inter with the release clause, but it should be Inter telling the player, you got to leave. And I'm not sure we're going to reach this level anytime soon. He still has this release clause, which is valid. And, when there is something like this in football, you never know what can happen because, as I said, a club can just decide to pay this clause, reach an agreement with the player and take it home. So you never know what can happen. at the moment, this clause is still in place, and it's one of the 5 release clauses to watch in Serie A. One final one is not for a striker, but for a defender, who's Gleison Bremer of Juventus, who is currently injured. So he's been not on the main radars, let's say, Bremer for transfer talks, but he surely is one of the best defenders in Serie A. He got this serious knee injury at the start of the season in October, so he's recovering, and he's probably not expected to leave because he'll have, again, to recover and get playing time and hit the ground running with Juventus in 2025-26, or even during the Club World Cup, making his first appearance since October. But he has this release clause of more than 60 million, which is a fee that he agreed last year in August when he signed the second contract extension in 8 months. He had already signed one at the end of December 2023, and the clause was around 50-60 million. Then there were transfer rumors again about him in the following transfer campaign over the summer, so he decided in August to sign a further contract extension for 1 more year, deciding to actually stay at Juventus, put himself outside of the market, and even raise his release clause because he really believed in Thiago Motta's project and Giuntoli, and now we know things have gone in a different direction for Juventus. But Bremer was actually one of the few Juventus players to bid farewell to Motta on social media when he was sacked. This was pretty much all I had on the release clauses in Serie A. These 5 players will be pretty exciting to watch, and for sure there will be rumors about them over the last few months. So keep in mind those are their release clause. A couple of them also have an expiration date for the release clause, so keep that in mind. And if you like this video, subscribe to the channel. There will be more about Serie A transfers and Italian transfer news starting tomorrow. I'll be in Turin for Igor Tudor's debut as the Juventus coach. So let's keep in touch, subscribe to the channel, and we speak very, very soon. Ciao.